So, welcome to those of you who just got the notification. We are going live. We'll give it about a minute or two to get everyone a chance to log in and get settled. And then we'll see everyone's faces on screen here in just a minute. All right. So, for those of you who are joining us this morning, we're going to get everyone's faces here on screen, do some quick introductions. So, let's see. We got everyone here. We are live. Welcome.
Hi.
So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with some introductions, and then I will let you guys take it away. So why don't we go ahead? We'll start with Jonathan, and we'll say where you work, what you do, how long you've been at the company, and I'll let you take it from here.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Victoria. So I'm Jonathan Meyer. I'm one of the senior solutions engineers for the Bridgeline team. I primarily work with the HawkSearch tool and have been doing so for close to maybe over 9 years now at this point. Need to double check the exact time frame. It's been a while. I'm out here in the Chicagoland area and yeah, enjoying a nice rainy day here, right? Nice rainy fall day. Jeremy?
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us this morning. Jeremy LaDuque, I hail from the Central Coast of California. HawkSearch is owned by a company called Bridgeline, and we are a portfolio company. I've been with Bridgeline since 2013, and I head up partnerships. So I have the great pleasure of working with our great partner, American Eagle.
And yeah, my name is Brendan Cameron. I'm the Director of Strategy here at American Eagle. I started 13 years ago, so I was pretty much clean shaven then.
All right, awesome. So guys, let's jump in here. Super excited to kind of frame this up and tee this up. For those of you joining us, or if you catch this video at some point, hopefully soon here, because it is time sensitive, given we're talking about the upcoming season, holiday season. I think this is going to be a great webinar. You're going to get some tremendous nuggets from these guys. We're going to talk about three things. I'm going to take another couple minutes and provide some stats to kind of give us some context of what we're about to see over the next 3 months. And then it'll also kind of give some context to what Jonathan and Brendan are going to be talking about. So we're going to look at basically customer experience. How do we connect customers to products, but ultimately how do we make a great customer experience? Traffic, and what should we be looking at, and what can you expect? And then lastly, a personalization and recommendations and that kind of stuff using AI and machine learning. So let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So here's a great slide, kind of teeing us up here on what we're going to be looking at this year. This is showing us growth up till now, and as you can see, e-commerce is simply not slowing down. I mean, every year it's going up, and as you can see, just the number of people. I mean, it's staggering. Just the amount of growth we're seeing in e-commerce. So really the takeaway here is, if you're here, if you want to understand, how to capture more traffic, we're going to get into that. But as you can see, the traffic is going to be there. It's out there, right? And it's for us to talk about here about how you can garner some of that. So let's go to the next slide. This is really interesting. The first big takeaway, keep in mind, if you look down to the bottom right, is that Black Friday and Cyber Monday are not the only two key events in the next 3 months, right? We have, look at Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving Eve alone. I mean, those are equal to Black Friday. So keep that in mind. You really are coming in at a great time if you're here to grab some nuggets and really start in on what you're going to be looking at and whether you can make some improvements or tweaks and take stuff away from here. But just keep that in mind that, this isn't about just two days. It's about the whole season. And then notice a couple other interesting stats, that SMS is going to be key, mobile is key, and email is key. And not just email, but it's interesting to see that, email is boosting sales. So let's go to the next and last slide. The real takeaway here is just that everything has gone global. And if that's something you're looking at, that's definitely something to take into consideration this holiday season. The interesting stat here is that globally, the United States between 2022 and 3 is expected to actually go down. And a lot of that traffic is going to be moving to, and into other countries like Germany, the UK, and Spain. So keep that in mind that, international is key. So with that, let's jump in with Brendan. He's going to start in on some really great stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. So when we're looking at, the ramp up time for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Thanksgiving, and the holidays, a lot of your slow burn efforts are probably, in midstream and you're currently working on them. The SEO, the pay-per-clicks, the AdWords, these are those passive things that essentially changing things now, it probably isn't going to have the greatest impact. You may find some good AdWords and may find some good keyword strategies, but then executing them in the month we have, changing the content, getting the keyword rich marketing communications in there is going to be a bit tough. So what we want to focus on is proactive campaigns, and outbound customer marketing, whether it's SMS or sales, is very key to that. You can see some of the stats on the screen now, but really focusing on making sure that anything that you're trying to drive to the site has that personalization toward it. And using those email campaigns, traditionally, I call it the spray and pray method, where you try to get a very generalized email out there. You really need to start utilizing, more of a workflow or essentially a process to target customers and segments accordingly. What you're going to see on the screen now is one of those examples that we have for outbound customer marketing. On the next slide is pretty much a full breakdown of what you could see here. And you could see things like if they opened or if they did not open, have different follow-up emails. If they click through, depending on what topic they click through on, you could send a follow-up email for that specific topic. Having this type of campaign worked on now and ready for, the end of October and into November is one of those key elements. And this is the type of email that gives you that 6-time return on this and over regular, again, more generic email blasts. So if you have marketing automation, if you have a CRM, honestly, if you just have some good tracking and constant contact, just try to start evolving into this method, because this is going to be the key into having that greater return than you may have typically seen. Now, also looking into that, notice the next screen here, layouts are very important, especially because we know that people are checking their emails more and more on their phone. It needs to be mobile friendly. So making sure to have some of these new layouts is very key. Traditionally, it was just a single column or an F pattern layout. But now looking at opportunities like you see the inverted pyramid or hybrids, you have a lot more complexity at your disposal because email coding is much more sophisticated. By no means am I saying, do you have to do those embedded GIFs or videos into your emails? No, having the good targeted content is key. Using one of these layouts is a best practice, and just being able to capitalize on these types of efforts are going to have that best ROI for your marketing team. Now, driving people to the site is one thing. Keeping your site up is another. The third bullet here is probably the one that I will try to scream from the mountaintops. This is according to Shopify's data that they've gathered in analytics. A 1-second delay in load times can lead to a 7% loss in conversions and 11% loss in page views. So making sure that your site is fast and can handle that scale in traffic for this particular time of year is key. having application monitoring software, having your team maybe set up a war room to keep your servers under review and under good eyes is going to be key. Also, it's going to help you for forecast and budgeting over the long term. The biggest thing to worry about is downtime, because not only is it costing you revenue, it's damaging your relationship. I remember last year, I think it was Crate and Barrel or Zara or something, they went down, and it was a huge impact on their relationship. So making sure that you have, all of your infrastructure set up, all of your team prepped for the incoming rush is going to be key. And then once we get down to how do I get started with something like this, it's a pretty quick walkthrough. So as you'll see on the screen, we want to make an inventory. We want to really just get an understanding. On the next slide. Yeah, we want to make an inventory of, your current specs and setup. You want to just get an understanding or baseline behavior. So getting it set up now before the rush is huge, because you're going to understand, going into this holiday season with your CPUs already at 90% capacity is not a good thing. So getting started now, getting the monitoring underway and understanding what your site and servers are currently dealing with will help you move into, your projected rush. Also, it's going to help with escalating things. So if there's anything that does come up, you want to make sure you have that, the call tree set up. You want to make sure you have team members that are having ownership over the various pieces, because even if something does happen, you need to have that failover protection. So whether you have a completely redundant system or you have your backups ready to go, if something does happen and you have to escalate, the people are already on board and they know what they need to do once they're called. Now, the most important thing, like I said, this also is going to help you year round anyway, because you're going to be able to get an understanding of your cost. You're going to get an understanding about your scaling, and you're going to be able to start forecasting and budgeting more appropriately now, especially if you're doing things on AWS, Google Cloud, or Azure. You're going to need to start working with what their costs are, because they can really nickel and dime along the way. And instead of trying to guess at what you need, you may be undercutting or overcutting your expectations. With good monitoring, you're going to be able to know exactly what you need and know exactly what's coming up next.
Hey, Brendan, I got a question for you. Like on the email, I wanted to ask, do you, I think you mentioned Constant Contact. I think, the programs like HubSpot, have those tools embedded, where you can build a flow and things like that. But what you're talking about now is so much more complex and technical. Now, I know if I were with, say, AWS, I have metrics in there. But do you recommend using, the company you're with, or would you also recommend, like having third party look at your server infrastructure too?
Yeah, so our company does hosting and data management. So we have our own monitoring team. We have our own staff that's 24/7, 365. But when we do set up client servers and we do set up their hosting for their websites, we typically will get them access to our monitoring tools, because being transparent is probably paramount. So even though you may be seeing things you don't understand, or even though there may be issues that come up that are not really a high priority, because it does take a trained eye to see, at least being able to see how everything is performing, it at least gives that sense of mind to the internal team itself. So yeah, typically you would need a technical person that understands everything, because it's a lot of numbers, but also just having that available is just going to help you in the long term regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Brendan, American Eagle has a kind of historical the thing I'm always familiar with when we think about traffic with AmericanEagle.com is their Super Bowl Sunday ads. I think one of your clients is regularly has an ad in Super Bowl Sunday, and you guys always promote how well you guys have handled that rush of traffic, because it's got to be a huge crush, even bigger than what you'd think from a Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Yeah, and that's one of the things is people don't expect that type of surge. WeatherTech is the client, and yeah, we go from a baseline of having 1,000 concurrent users on the site to seconds after that ad plays on the Super Bowl, it goes up tenfold. They're almost at, 10,000 to 20,000 concurrent users hitting the site. So if you're doing a large marketing push that you've never attempted before, I would make sure that you understand the type of impact you could have in your infrastructure. Having that marketing budget and driving people to the site is great, but making sure that site is still up is probably just as important there.
Yeah, it's also interesting to note, I mean, everything you're talking about obviously is key to the customer experience, and you need it up, but Google's watching too, right? So from an SEO standpoint, having a super fast site that doesn't go down, I mean, Google's watching that. And your search engine optimization actually also relies on all of this too.
Yeah, and I mean, I will also note people that are using like Elasticsearch internally or hosted on their own, or using a site that has search built in. Those processes take place on those servers, so you have to account for that. So that's, again, moving into kind of the HawkSearch side of things. With that being hosted in your own environment, you don't have that additional stress of running all those Elastic queries, running and maintaining all those indexes. So this is an infrastructure saver for sure.
Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, and then finally, I would say, and I know this is going to probably roll over to your team, but a great thing when you're talking about having a personalized email, and when we're talking about being able to really cater to the individual user, including recommendations in your email is huge, because now you don't have to worry about building, multiple pieces of content. You have that customer behavior from the site, you target that customer in your email, and the recommendations engine is going to provide, all of that dynamic recommendation, whether it's content or product, in that email. So, Jonathan, I think you could probably speak more to the HawkSearch recommendations than I could. So.
Yes, definitely. There's a lot that we can tackle when it comes to that. And I think this is a good kind of segue there, like you were talking about. What I want to kind of lead into from that recommendations perspective, though, is kind of maybe take a step back before we dive into the exact personalization. Because there is a lot that we can do once the visitor gets to the site. We kind of think of, maybe if you don't have that personalized aspect, like you were talking about in your deck, following that chart down, are we going into a persona or not? Let's say that visitor has not gotten to that persona level yet. You still want to be able to make sure that you're leveraging kind of that wisdom of the crowd approach. You're talking about all of this new traffic hitting your site and just this exponential increase in kind of the number of visitors that you're getting. You still want to be able to leverage all of that information. You still want to be able to take advantage of those signals that you're getting from visitors who might only even stop by once or twice. And maybe you don't even purchase something, but you still want to be able to go ahead and take advantage of, this was a visitor who came to the site and interacted with it. And so one of the things that we do want to highlight is that these are things that you can start to take advantage of as soon as someone does get to the site. Take advantage of those interactions from everyone who's been browsing to understand, well, what are your popular searches? They click into that search box before they've even started typing in. This is something that you can look to take advantage of, what has everyone else been searching on, especially during the season where trends can happen very quickly. Things can emerge kind of unexpectedly. There's always the classic, oh, this is the hot new toy of the season, or here's the hot new gadget or whatever. Those kinds of things can happen more, more naturally, more kind of quickly within the environment. So taking advantage of those signals and being able to leverage them in to immediately start to drive automated things like popular searches, and also things like your popular products, taking advantage of the trending information that HawkSearch in this case can actually see and can understand, well, what are the products that visitors are engaging with? What are they adding to their cart? What are they converting off of? And immediately start to present those to kind of eliminate some of that friction that you see. We were talking earlier about how Shopify was talking about how just a single second in the delay of loading results can negatively impact the experience. Think about all of the other chances for that delay to happen when someone's interacting with your site. They are doing a search, they're executing that search, maybe they're making navigation choices. If you can immediately present to them what they're looking for, you're really streamlining that process. You're eliminating opportunities for them to lose that engagement by immediately saying, hey, here's probably what you're looking for. Here's the searches that you might be looking to execute. And even as you can see here, taking advantage of things like trending categories. So you can say, hey, maybe we're not showing you the right product that you're looking for, or maybe you've got more, more niche tastes. We can still suggest those pieces of information, and say, hey, here's a way that we can help streamline this process and get the visitor directly towards what they're looking for quicker. Some other ways that we can help impact this, and some other ways that you can really look at trying to help improve the experience. And what we're looking at here as well is also kind of hands off. This is whether it's people are on vacation, people are out of the office, you've got different things going on. You're going to be very busy during this season, regardless. We want to look at where are the things that we can do to help improve the experience automatically without the business users, without your IT staff having to come in and really kind of take ownership of that. Those are the bigger projects, setting up those email campaigns. When it comes to site search, these are the things that you want to lean into, a lot of the machine learning and a lot of the AI, a lot of the recommendations. So we were talking earlier about how that instant engagement can handle that from the search box. Here we want to also be able to improve the search results themselves by using those signals. And again, this can be done at a wisdom of the crowd level. We can definitely fully personalize these as well, which is a great thing that we'll talk about in a second. But from the perspective of just leveraging everything that's happening on the site to help improve that, we have an example here where improving the search results. I've come to the site, I've done a search for plates. It's before November 1st. This site carries a lot of kind of holiday decorations. We can see here before November 1st, we're getting into the spooky season here. So we're seeing all of the Halloween plates. We've got our Charlie Brown things, our Hocus Pocus, our orange and black plates. But after we get through the Halloween season, that immediately shifts. That immediately starts to move over into the next holiday, the next major holiday, which in this case is going to be Christmas. And so we can see those products start to float towards the top more naturally through this experience here, learning what visitors are interacting with, what are they adding to their shopping cart, what are they converting off of, and using that to automatically improve those results. Again, analyzing that behavior of the visitors and saying it's the same search. All of these results were originally visible regardless, but as a business, you're not having to then worry about these are the things that we're going to promote. This can be improved automatically through the tool. Now, of course, as we're going to talk about as well, you want to make sure that you're leveraging, your own merchandising strategies, your own boosting and bearing rules. You want to make sure the items that, you've got a better discount on, things like that are being promoted. But you can rely on tools like HawkSearch to help automate those areas where you're not able to spend the resources, or maybe there's a gap in the availability you have. But we do want to circle back around to personalization, because Brian is 100% correct that is really going to be one of the key focuses there. And what you really want to lean into is that idea of this being a one-to-one level for buyer preferences. This is something that you can re-engage with visitors. During the holiday season, this can be a time where people are price shopping. They are looking at what's available. Again, supply constraints are going to be, of course, always a concern going into the holiday season. Visitors are aware of that. We've all kind of learned them that over the last few years, that something might not be in stock this time, it might be in stock the next day, or maybe I need to order this right now because you do have this in stock where a competitor doesn't. You want to use those signals from when someone has been on the site, they have done some searches, they have done some interactions. What were they recently looking at? What were they recently searching for? Really taking advantage of just those initial kind of levels of someone's browsing on the site. Again, we're thinking about the idea of how this might be someone's first time to your site. You've driven that communication, has gotten them through to your site. Your SEO efforts have gotten them through to your site for the first time. Let's start immediately personalizing that for them. Let's leverage those searches. Let's leverage those interactions so that if they do end up going someplace else to maybe price shop and they come back to your site, let's hit them immediately with that. Hey, this is what you were last looking at. Here's what you were last looking for. Let's really capture that visitor when they do come back to the site. There's, of course, the idea of being fully personalized. So if that visitor has been around on your site before, they have an account, or even if they don't have an account, maybe they've just been, kind of doing some advanced research on what are the options that you're offering and what's available on your site, doing some searches, doing some navigation choices, we can start to drive those personalizations where it's not just what have they recently viewed and what have they recently searched, but we know that you have a preference for a certain brand, or we know that you're a woman, or that you are browsing for kids items, or that you have you're price conscious, or those kind of different signals can be used to help drive kind of a fully personalized experience.
Hey, Jonathan, real quick.
Yeah.
To Brendan's point earlier, personalization can also flow into email.
Mm-hmm.
We actually know we've got customers asking us if we can put personalized recommendations into anywhere, just content. So it doesn't have to stop just at e-commerce. You can 100%. Really look to your entire tech stack and figure out how to drive it elsewhere.
Yeah, to Brendan's point, it's one of those things where the more personalized you can make it, starting from that email communication, starting from when they get back to the site, the more you can make it feel like the site and your communication and your merchandising, your marketing efforts towards them, that it's personalized, it's unique, is super important, and really, the stats back that up in terms of, like what Brendan was showing earlier. It's a 6-time increase in terms of that capture of, oh, hey, this is what I was looking for. Oh, just the simple fact of adding in, hey, Sam, it's, oh, this they know who I am. Like, it personalizes it beyond that kind of, beyond that kind of, blanket. Oh, here it's this generic marketing push. It just, that little bit of uniqueness can really go a long way. Let's go ahead and talk about how we can actually get even more personalized for that. So one of the things that I want to kind of stress when we think about what are the other ways that we can leverage this idea of making things more unique, I want to jump maybe down to the third point first here, just to kind of tackle some of the ways that we can be really hyper specific. So in your kind of concepts of marketing and merchandising and using recommendations to say, hey, we want to show what customers have also bought, or we want to show what customers might have also viewed. Very classic kind of wisdom of the crowd approaches. One of the things that we believe from the HawkSearch side that sets us apart, and just to kind of maybe put a feather in our cap here for this presentation, something to think about, is personalizing those strategies. So if we want to think about the personalization being, understanding the uniqueness of the visitor, these additional strategies here, when we think about, add to cart, buy, and view for me, make this something that is hyper specific. It is not taking just that idea of personalization, but it is making it in the kind of use case that you're trying to capture. You're on that shopping cart page. You're trying to get that increase in average order value. You're trying to get that upsell. You're trying to get that cross sell. These are the strategies that are not only going to take that kind of classical wisdom of this crowd approach of saying, oh, here's what other customers have also bought, or here's what other customers have also viewed. And really personalize it, taking that initial, let's say, a classic strategy of what customers have also added to their shopping cart. Maybe that'll have another 100 items that other customers have viewed, but running those 100 items then through that personalization and saying, well, we know that this is Joe Smith who's browsing the site here, and we know that Joe Smith really is into Nike. He always prefers the color blue, and he's a size large. Using that information to say, well, out of those 100 other items that customers have also added to their shopping cart, let's show the Nike purple and size large items, because we know that Joe's going to be most interested in those. So it takes that idea of personalization and really hyper focuses it on the kind of the use case, the marketing and merchandising use case that you're trying to build out for. Some other ways to think about how we can leverage personalization is also just to personalize the search results themselves. We classically have this idea of kind of the carousels, the recommendation carousels that you might think about on a product detail page, on a shopping cart page, on a home page. We can also take that information and we can influence the search results. So if I do a search on that site for a jacket, and this is Joe Smith browsing, and that Joe Smith, again, likes Nike, likes purple, likes large size items, those items then can show up towards the top from a search perspective. And again, this is all automated, where we don't then have to worry about, from a business user perspective, a team member perspective of our company, having to dedicate resources to this and making sure that those cycles are spent on more beneficial areas where the automation can kind of take care of this, handling that day-to-day opportunities that we see crop up. Now, with all of this said, we want to kind of provide a little wrap up here with the time that we have available here. So some things to be aware of. We want to make sure that this is the reason that we're trying to do this as early as possible here in October, is really some of these efforts should have already started. We're a little bit behind the 8 ball here if you're just thinking about Black Friday, Cyber Monday now. So things to think about. You want to make sure that you're spreading out those resources. It doesn't just need to be the Black Friday, Cyber Monday, as Jeremy very correctly highlighted. It is become kind of a month-long thing. Visitors are already thinking about that, already starting to do research and investigation into certain items. From an SEO perspective, you want to make sure that you're reviewing that traffic, reviewing those core web vitals. You want to make sure that you're kind of lining up appropriately for that. And really looking at some of the reporting and analytics. This is something that, if you haven't thought about it, one of the best ways you can get a kind of a jump start on, kind of shortcut some of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday preparations, is look at last year's reporting and analytics and see where you started to see those trends start to pick up, where the traffic started to increase from, into that holiday season. What were some of the top terms? Maybe it's not going to be one for one for this year, depending on how seasonal your catalog might be, but it can give you an idea of what your visitors are going to be looking for out of your product catalog. So really looking at those patterns and behaviors to start understanding when that can improve. And of course, looking for those traffic surges, making sure that you have those metrics like Brendan was talking about. You know what those baselines are. You know, if you're staring at that, oh, we're already at 90% utilization, we really need to get something in place for to handle the holiday crush. So we got a little checklist there on the side there. Be prepared. Have you set up and tested? Make sure you're looking at your search and merchandising rules. Make sure that those are dialed in, that you're getting good relevancy, that you've got your boost and berry rules set up, that you have those bigger campaigns in place. Gifts and promotions are, of course, always going to be a big way to drive sales. There's lots of statistics on kind of how discount values can improve average order values and get people to actually cross that finish line for conversion. Review your hosting and infrastructure, and make sure you've got those behavior analysis models set up. We were talking about how we can help automate a lot of this experience, but that does need to be at least configured to say, hey, this is what's important to us as a business, and making sure that you've got your personalized strategies in place as well. So lots of things to take a look at, make sure that you've got ready and that you're all good to go. Best of luck. It's a busy time of year, but I think that wraps up our kind of our presentation for what we wanted to cover today. I'll pass it back to Victoria here.
Perfect. Yeah. And I do want to go ahead and hop on and just say, Florence just added a comment that personalization and market research is the key. And I love it. Florence, you have been listening. Spot on. So I did want to mention real quick, this slide right here has so much information. It's a really good wrap up, sort of bite size piece of information here for you. We will be sending out a recap blog, including a lot of the information that you're seeing here, sort of a checklist, just making sure all of your ducks are in a row before next month hits. Because yeah, like Jeremy said, it is a month long. It's more of a marathon than a sprint situation. And then as we usually do, we want to give you an opportunity. If you have any follow-up questions for Jonathan, Jeremy, Brendan, any of them, you can go ahead and use your phone to scan. If you want to book a demo to see a lot of HawkSearch capabilities live, Jonathan gives a killer demo. And then AmericanEagle.com is also offering a free digital marketing consult. So if you want either of those, please scan the QR code. And then I did want to also mention we have another upcoming webinar that is very specific to AI. I know that is all the rage right now. Everyone's posting about it, and it is so important to see how that can impact your e-commerce presence. So we also have this one coming up October 18th. If you want to go ahead and scan that to register, you'll get a reminder when we are going live in 30 minutes for this talk. And with that, I just wanted to thank you all for joining. This has been, jam-packed, so much helpful information. And with that, we'll hopefully see you guys on screen again soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Everyone.
Right.
Thanks
Have
all.
a great day.